The other thing that I, I sent you just an email this morning. They've been waiting for quite a while. The Owego, he's a fireman there, but they want to use the name. I think it's Owego Tribe or something like that. Just he's been waiting for quite some time to get a response from council, and he's called and the council said to send it over to Lisa to get a response. And I thought Lisa had sent something back saying she didn't have any concern with it, but I can't. Can we check that out? Can you check to see if Lisa sent an email back concerning that? MC? So the
Chief, which item you on?
they want to use the name Owego Indians, and it says here. So he sent the first email back on February the 16th. Good day, Chief Don. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me 2 weeks ago. I very much enjoyed our conversation. As discussed, New York State is now requiring us to gain approval from a recognized tribe to continue use of the school name, Owego Indians. So that they've been calling it that all along. Our symbol appealed to the Great Spirit by Cyrus Edwin Dallins. I've copied our school board president and school superintendent on this email. As you know, we have a long-standing history with the Native American community, which we wish to continue, and it would be an honor to have your tribe's approval. I'm attaching a recent picture of Loft's monument in our high school lobby featuring the appeal to the Great Spirit statue that became our school symbol in 1927. Perhaps you and your tribal members may be able to visit our community again as Loft's memorial was restored. A formal request from our school district is attached for your consideration. Favorable consideration by your tribal council is very much appreciated. I'm also interested in learning more about your cultural center and will send additional email on that under separate cover. So Pat Gavin is a fireman over there and is involved with their civic affairs. They just want to continue using the name Owego Indians for their school. And apparently they spoke to an elder and it sounded like it might have been from Akwesasne who didn't have a concern with it. So does council agree or disagree with using the name Owego Indians to continue using that for their school? He said it was meant to honor our people because of this Susana Loft's grave marker being there at the highest elevation of your community. She went down in the 1800s to raise money for to get Bibles or prayer books or something in the Mohawk language, and there was a train accident and she was killed, a young woman, and the judge buried her there in her cemetery in their plot, and so they have a great big high monument. I sent that the photograph of that to the council in previous emails. So is council agreeable to their request to continue using that name? It's something that's required by the New York State government.
Chief, do you have a recommendation on this?
I don't have a problem with it. You know, they still call people Indians in the States, so I don't have a problem. I don't think it was meant as just to affect our people. Because one of our members had the highest amount of respect there.
Chief?
Yes?
I would like to have the update from Community Services, because I do know that this was sitting there, and I think that there were some staff that were assigned to provide some guidance on this. I'm a little uncomfortable making that kind of decision, considering that we have other communities that may have a different perspective that are relatives. So whether that's Akwesasne, whether that's Ganawage, maybe this might be appropriate to put on the IC agenda for discussion.
Well, anyway, they had to get back to the New York State government, I guess, by the middle of April. That's why he's been following up on it, and otherwise they may have to stop using that name.
Well,
so the lack of a response is really creating other issues there.
Respectfully, you're saying that if there's not an endorsement by other tribes,
they need another tribe, and he thought he would write to us simply because one of our members was killed there and has this monument erected there in her memory.
So are they saying that if the name of the school changes, they're going to take down the monument?
No. Don't
So
do
that would stay.
This is about.
So the history-
Owego and
So the,
Indians.
so the significance of the fact that somebody, a member here
It's
passed away
because-
down there,
It's because they.
wouldn't be lost.
Yeah, and it's because they had been using it since 1927,
Yeah.
and they want to continue using it. It's nothing new. They just want to
No.
continue using it.
I don't think there's any new names, new team names that are coming up with Indians. A lot of them are mostly long-standing, Redskins, all that.
Yeah,
But
this is not. This is just Indian. That's
yeah.
Perhaps we make a you send a letter saying it's probably more appropriate for our brothers and sisters south of the border to make that kind of decision on our community?
No, I never said that.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't say that.
I
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, we ask them.
We've had conversations like this in different circles, education circles, about, and my position has always been why does the school board want you to change it? What's their reasoning?
Yeah, I guess because it's become a politically sensitive issue.
Why has it become politically sensitive?
Well, that's probably why the New York government has told them with the use of Indians and names, they need the permission of at least a tribe to say it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's just really, they're asking us to satisfy a requirement of the education department of the New York government.
That sounds like a token gesture.
That's,
No, because they just started using it to honor our people back in 1927, and so I guess they reviewed all that. Maybe there have been complaints about using Indian names like Redskins, as
Yeah,
you mentioned,
yeah.
and so anybody where the word Indian appears, they have to go and get permission now.
But if and I don't want to get on too much of a sidebar on this, but if I say, Ted, that hat you wear is disrespectful, you have to take that off. If Ted takes that hat off, it's because I told him to. Maybe Ted doesn't connect with the disrespect. Maybe Ted doesn't connect with the actual thing. If I tell somebody to not do something, shouldn't they have the information and be like, you know what? Now that I know that this, maybe it's not appropriate that our school name be. Maybe that kid that sees the people in the crowd doing wahoo chants at the basketball game, who happens to be a Mohawk, doesn't really like that. Now that I understand there's a connection beyond a historical one from somebody that passed away 100 years ago, like you said. So
Back in over 100 years.
I think whether it's Iroquois caucus, whether it's Tyendinaga Mohawk territory, we can always provide insight as to what certain team names could what impacts they could have. At the end of the day, I feel like it's not up to me to make that decision for them.
Yeah.
agreed.
If you want to, if you're being pushed and we can chalk it up as political correctness, and that sometimes dismisses things as being less than needed. But they're reaching out saying, "Are you cool with it?" No comment. Are you cool with it? Right?
Well,
They're cool with it.
I don't have an issue with it, really.
Oh.
It was done to honor the history of that member of our Mohawk community who was killed there doing Christian
Yeah.
work, and she was honored, and so they named their school the Owego Indians, and just to celebrate their close relationship and respect for our people. That's why it was done. But
Is that how it's still being?
Well, the other thing is, the United States and Canada have an awful lot of people that are immigrating to this country, that in the U.S. And some of those people that are immigrating, well, now recently Canada has come system of becoming a Canadian citizen. They have to their citizenship oath. They have to honor the Aboriginal and treaty rights. They don't have a clue with that. Some of them don't even know that they're the indigenous people, or the original people of the land, the Indians, as we were called, are different than the East Indians from India. Some of them don't know the difference. And to me, I think it's another statement that there were other people here.
Yeah, and I would like to think that people that are maybe unfamiliar with that could learn, could educate themselves on these historical plaques, outlining that, and less with JV football teams named after Indians.
So there, because of this Susana Loft monument, their community, celebrate that,
Yeah.
and probably have since.
I wonder if it's ever been weaponized.
think so.
I wonder if it's ever been used to discriminate.
Not that I'm aware of.
Like, I'll give you a quick example because we've got to move on. The Syracuse University used to be called the Syracuse Orangemen. Their mascot was an Indian with orange paint on, would color Ted's shirt, and eventually that seemed to be less kosher. So now they're called the Syracuse Orange, and their mascot is a great big orange, Otto the Orange.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that things were done necessarily with malicious intent or whatever, but it's okay for things to evolve and for historical, again, this has been our tradition for 100 years. Fantastic. Doesn't mean it's got to be the next 100 years.
Yeah.
So with these things, it's I'm glad there's a conversation, but don't just chalk it up to
Yeah.
check yes or no if you approve ours.
So my understanding from the conversation, they had to get back to the New York government
Yeah.
by the middle of April, otherwise they have to stop changing the name of that school.
I would ask them to do what they think is right. And keeping in
Well,
mind that
I was
keeping in mind that you're not just talking about historical figures.
Actually, what they need the New York is they think it's right to continue using it because that's what the people there are used to, and they did it out of respect for our people, and but it's the New York government that requires them to have permission to use that name from at least one tribe, and because she was from here or believed to be from here. That's
But the
why
name
they're
of the
asking
school
us.
is not called Cessna Loft School. It is called the Owego Indian School.
Well, we could call it, suggest maybe they call it Cessna Law School.
Perhaps. Maybe that's more appropriate.
It would be the homage they wish to seek. But I think there's issues with naming things after people as well, too.
Because one thing I don't want people to get sight of, especially with it's such a large immigrating population now in Canada, to lose sight of the fact that there were people that were called Indians here before anybody else. And the more you remove it out of the public consciousness through any visible sign, the more people are going to shift to not know that. You're making it more and more obscure. Because I mean, their focus is on their financial well-being and their survival and how they participate in the economy. It's not about these other things. And even a lot of people that we have been several generations of in this country know nothing about it. And that's one of the recommendations of the TRC, that Canadians who live here know more about it.
But I don't think there's a recommendation in the TRC that says more sports teams should be named
No,
the Indians.
But I think the more that we get,
Yeah, or the Braves.
people learn from seeing. The
Yeah,
same thing
yeah.
with our language. They learn from
Absolutely.
seeing and hearing. If they don't see and they don't hear, they don't know.
Exactly.
Chief, is council suggesting this go to AIAI? I heard
No.
that.
I think I said Iroquois Caucus.
And if that's the case,
It's
if
not.
we're not sending a letter here, why are we going to talk about it at great length? If we're not going to take any action or send a letter?
Well, really, they're asking us because this Susna law
Yeah,
that
I know.
generates all of this.
I know,
you
but
know,
if we're
respect for
sending
Indians.
something else, should we just defer to AIAI and move on?
I said Iroquois Caucus.
Or caucus?
Not,
You can
yeah,
do that.
very distinct.
But by the middle of April, I don't think it's going to make much difference because they don't have permission from anybody yet. Other than he mentioned there was one elder, I think, from Necessity, that he asked, and he said it was okay. That's in one of the emails. So you could just tell him to rely on what the elder said. Can you look up that email that there was an elder that they had consulted? He mentioned it in one of the emails. Get the name. But I would like to give him some kind of response. I don't have a response to give him other than, if you think it's okay, well then continue using it. Tom Porter. So Tom Porter.
Oh, it wasn't the approval for this. It
What
was,
is-
or something different.
Oh, something different?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the name of the tribe again?
Owego Indians is what they're calling it.
So was that a,
That's
that
the
a
name,
tribe?
they call the school the Owego
Is that a
Indians.
tribe though? Owego?
That's the place. Owego is the
So
place.
did they ask those folks right there?
Well, that's what their school is called, the Owego.
So if their tribe doesn't have an issue with it,
No, there's no tribe. They call their
There's no
school,
Owego
they
tribe.
call their school the Owego Indians.
My thoughts would be that, my recommendation would be that you call your school, refer to your school as respectful of all your members, of all the people that you value in this world. Like, I don't want to be corny, but at the end of the day, we expect you to be respectful, right? And if you feel that this is respectful, then I guess that's your prerogative, man. So we've had these same conversations with Sir John A. Macdonald schools, right? The names of things. It's a good discussion to have, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's up to me to make the decision for people. I can fill in the blanks as to who, or fill in, a full picture as to who this person is, what they represent, what they could represent, what they mean to some people. By the end of the day, if you choose to still say, well, I think it's important that it be named
So
that,
could
then
I
fair
write
enough.
him a letter then to say the council would support their local decision?
I would, my expectation of any school is to be
As long as
respectful,
the- is to be respectful.
respectful of their students, of their community members, and of neighboring community members.
And the indigenous and the Indians who were here first.
And if that should be the forefront of their thought is, I wouldn't want somebody to just say, well, we can't do it anymore because the Indians didn't want us to do
Yeah,
it.
and
That's such a crappy lesson.
I would suggest, that they be, that our history be taught in their school as a condition of using that name, and just not because the Indians were seen to be resilient, strong, and tough, and could survive anything. But of course, that's something that we should celebrate, the strength of our people, because we wouldn't be here if they weren't strong and had resilience.
So I'm good with you writing that letter, Chief.
Okay, so just we'll respond in that fashion then. So Anna, do you want to craft a letter to that effect and send it around for approval of the council before we send it? Okay, that's what we'll do then. Maybe at least we can get back to them. Okay, motion to go in private.
I do have an action item before we do.